and it's a great panel, panel focused on science at work, next steps for small landholder harvests. It's a panel that's really close to our heart. At Gates Foundation, we care a lot about data, insights, and science. And it's even more exciting when science translates to improve lives of farmers. Few opening remarks from me, and then I'm excited to hear from my panelists. So we know in South Asia, small landholding farmers, many of who are here with us, so thank you so much for joining. They face disproportionate risks from climate change. I know you've heard all about it since the start of the session today. The fact is that heat stress, shifting rainfall patterns, as well as water scarcity, these are not necessarily future threats. Especially in Delhi, from where I am and I belong, we are experiencing extreme weather conditions even right now across India, states after states, but also neighboring countries. We are seeing how much of an impact extreme weather conditions are having right now, with distress of floods, but also impact on farmers' lives because their produce has been impacted massively. For millions of farmers who actually cultivate less than 2 hectares of land, even a small shock, like a late monsoon or dry spell, can undo their entire season's work. Because we are in a region where more than 80% of farmers are small landholders, climate resilience is not just about food security, it is also about economic stability, social stability, as well as dignity for their livelihoods. We also know that farmers are absolutely, they are fantastic at innovating as well. We've seen how fast really they adopt new seeds, how effectively and rapidly they use technology and extension services and advisory, provided it is given to them in a user-friendly manner and in a timely manner. The real question is, for this panel, is really about how can science translate and improve their lives. Over the last decades, we've learned important lessons. Investments in data systems, science, research, and modeling tools show that climate information can help farmers decide when to plant, how much to irrigate, and even shift crops. And that is why initiatives like ACASA, or Atlas of Climate Adaptation in South Asian Agriculture, matters. By providing a regional platform to anticipate climate risks, it helps countries plan for adaptation in a way that is locally relevant as well as regionally connected. BISA, in collaboration with National Agricultural Research across Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, many representatives are here with us today, have co-developed ACASA, which is fantastic. And at Gates Foundation, we are really humbled and privileged to have supported this initiative. So thank you so much for taking the lead and developing the Atlas. A little bit about ACASA, and then I'm going to open up to our panelists. ACASA is open access, web-enabled platform that uses high-resolution gridded databases to map climate risks at a granular level for South Asia and provide a portfolio of adaptation interventions to safeguard South Asian agriculture. But you'll hear a more articulate description of this from my panelist, Pramod. It really aims to improve investment targeting and decision making in agricultural technology, climate information and policies. We know that climate change has no borders, right? I mean, it is transnational, whether it's monsoon and weather patterns, whether it's shift in river basins, whether it's impact on market linkages, it impacts almost all of the countries in the regions. And ACASA is really creating a space for government decision makers, but also insurance providers, researchers, agri-food industry, international and national donors, service providers in aligned disciplines, and we heard from the panelists before, to share climate and agriculture data, exchange lessons, and accelerate progress together. I want to encourage everybody to think about how can we ensure science and research tools like ACASA facilitates daily decision making by farmers. But before I do that, I'm going to ask my panelists to join me in the launch of this atlas to mark the milestone of collaboration and partnership. All right, we're going to stand. Okay, cool.
South Asia is the heart of global agriculture, feeding nearly a quarter of the world's population. But this backbone of food security is under growing strain from climate change. This is the story of ACASA, mapping climate risks and guiding resilient futures for South Asian agriculture. Climate change is transforming the region's farming. Delayed monsoons, floods, rising temperatures, shifting livestock diseases patterns. The risks are no longer distant, they are here. With over 1 billion people depending on agriculture in South Asia, smallholders face uncertainty like never before. To act decisively, we must first understand where and how the risks unfold at the right scale with the right tools. Introducing the Atlas of Climate Adaptation in South Asian Agriculture, ACASA. An open-access digital platform developed by the Borlaug Institute for South Asia with regional partners BARC, ICAR, NARC and NRMC, and supported by the Gates Foundation. ACASA combines high-resolution data, climate science and expert-validated adaptation strategies to empower governments, agri-food industries, researchers, banks, donors and civil society. Assesses 15 crops and 6 livestock species in one place. Visualize high-resolution climate risks at 25 square kilometer resolution. Access location-specific adaptation options. Download open-access data instantly. Explore real-world use cases across the region. On the Explore tab, start by filtering by country or state and province. View data on crops on livestock at pixel or district level. Let us take wheat in India. See hazards, vulnerability and exposure with maps and statistics for current and future climate projections. For example, terminal heat is already critical and will intensify further for wheat. You can also view all hazard, exposure and vulnerability layers together in the indices panel. Next, assess impacts of climate change through productivity, resilience, and value of production. ACASA's uniqueness also lies in the spatial view of the selected adaptation intervention. For instance, zero tillage with residue retention in the case of wheat. The user can explore maps for zero tillage's land climate suitability, gender suitability, yield benefits, economic viability, and overall adaptation benefits. All our maps are interactive and freely downloadable in multiple formats and put to use for writing proposals or make climate-smart investment plans. Users can also view climate projections at sub-national level, moving beyond global-only sources. Hey, wait! Short on time? Use data at a glance for a summary view of hazards or adaptation. Want details on our methodology and expert insights? Visit the Resources tab. You can also read more about us and our team. ACASA, is more than a tool. It's a vision for a climate-resilient agricultural future, grounded in science, scaled through partnerships, and built for action. Visit akasa-bisa.org. Explore, adapt, transform.
Thank you. At the start of the panel, since we did not introduce our panelists, I'm going to go on my left to right, and I'm going to ask each of the panelists to state their name, their title, as well as organization before we start with the questions. We'll start with you, Krishna. You want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Myself, Timshina. I'm Executive Director of Nepal Agriculture Research Council. Thank you.
ICR National Institute of Agricultural Economics and Policy Research.
Hello, this is Hassan MD Hamidur Rahman. I am Director Computer and GIS Unit, Bangladesh Agricultural Research Council. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Aarti Bhatia. I'm a Principal Scientist at Indian Council of Agricultural Research.
And I'm Pramod Agarwal, Regional Program Leader from Dialogue Institute of South Asia and Project Leader for Akasa.
Pramod, keep holding the mic because I'm going to come to you, and thank you everyone for introducing yourself. So Pramod, the first question to you really is about tools like Akasa. They really hold promise for climate smart agriculture, but scaling them to reach millions of small landholding farmers is really it's rarely straightforward. From your perspective, what are the biggest barriers in moving the promise of data to the field for it to reach the farmers?
Thank you very much. So I'm sure you are all aware that there have been several data-driven tools made available globally over the last few years, especially in the last 5 years. Globally, there's a spurt in data-driven tools, much more in sector of like agriculture in advisories to farmers. I think today they claim in India, I think several million farmers are getting these advisories. But if you look closely at these advisories, these data-driven advisories, they are very generic. They are so one advisory practically for the whole district. So it's not able to distinguish between crops, livestock, farmers, livelihoods. So that's a huge challenge in terms of take-up of some of these very well done advisories. So Akasa, exactly what it does, it tries to overcome some of these challenges. It is trying to map the resource base for every 5 square kilometers, 25 square kilometer, the soil, the climate, the future hazards, and trying to link it with how individual commodities, individual crops and livestock species will respond to that. And Akasa covers 15 crops and 6 livestock species. Just like to remind you, I'm sure all of you are very aware, that hazards are very different for rice as compared to wheat, and obviously very different for cows and buffalo. So putting all of them together in a generic risk assessment is a huge challenge for anybody to understand. So Akasa has tried to overcome many of these challenges by providing this very granular, let's say approximately a gram panchayat scale, detailed information for whole of South Asia, done by several experts, some of them sitting here from all over South Asia. So this is a very unique set of tools and maps which have become available. The brochure is already in your handbags. You just saw the video. And it goes beyond farmer. So every advisory need not only be focused on farmer. If you really want to help farmer, there are many other media. For example, policy advisories, insurance company, agri-supply chain, they all need this type of information. Where to invest, when to invest, how much to invest, what will be the returns, what sort of business model they can create, what technology to promote, what technology not to promote. These are the questions in the mind of investors. Mind you, there are a lot of investment available, but people are unable to channelize, or unable to channelize rightly in the absence of a lot of this knowledge base. So Akasa provides a platform. It supports decision-making of climate investors, be it credit agencies like NABARD or other rural development banks. It supports national adaptation planning and provincial adaptation planning by governments, the state governments, provincial governments. It supports insurance agencies by providing some sort of detailed understanding where is business worth insurance, what sort of premiums you should be able to set up, what crops, what commodity you should be able to invest. So it provides fairly detailed information, but what is very important is that we need to continuously engage with them, and that's why Akasa, we are working on several use cases by which we should be able to illustrate that. I'll stop here this time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to be building on this question, Aarti. Perhaps maybe you can speak a little bit about, how are the outputs or similar, data insights? How are these informing policies? And we do have representatives from other countries as well, so it'll be good to hear from, India's perspective, but also for Bangladesh as well as Nepal.
So in India, we have a cloud-based geospatial platform known as Krishi DSS. So that is a decision support system which gives data-driven insight into agricultural planning. So now this takes into space technology and data from other sources and gives parcel level information for different what is the crop health, the soil situation. So real-time information is given, and for the stakeholders, which are the policy planners. Now here on this Krishi DSS portal, we have the tagging of the Akasa Atlas. So Akasa Atlas is being tagged onto this for the risk assessment. And so like told by Dr. Agarwal, so every 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer, we will have on our Krishi DSS portal, Akasa being used for doing the risk mapping and then enabling the policymakers to take decisions, and also for the stakeholders that are farmers to do their contingency planning, and for the crop insurance companies to take it forward, and even like for risk like flood management, for drought management. So its integration with the Krishi DSS is going to lead to a data-driven, farmer-centric solution for agricultural management. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Pratapji, would you want to add to this? And then I'll come to you, Hassan.
Just 1 minute. As Dr. Agarwal said about the portal, that is actually the regional portal. And the thing is, for every 4 countries involved in this Akasa project, there will be 4 other national level portals. And definitely, regarding data and science, I can say, when the country level portal will be in place, then definitely the scale will be higher and more granular scale. The policymakers and other stakeholders can data from the Akasa portal. I stop here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Pratapji, you want to build on what Aarti said?
A few observations, particularly, of course, this is a very good attempt to provide, kind of risk zoning at a very granular level. And it will help a lot to the farmers and, of course, other stakeholders, particularly those who are involved in dissemination of the technologies and the policymakers and financial institutions. But one thing that is required to translate this kind of, decision-making tools into real impact on farmers, it is essential that we should target our interventions and policies, because farmers generally they are risk averse, and until unless they are satisfied the kind of solutions this tool provides, if the tools are costlier, farmers don't believe it, okay, they can't afford it, then it becomes really problematic to translate those kind of things. And here comes the role of financial institutions. Farmers generally they own, say, at the most 2 hectares of land. In India, at least 90% of the farmers. But do they have enough resources? Particularly, what I feel this tool, Akasa, provides a kind of comprehensive solutions for risk mitigation, adoption, and all those. And when we talk about the comprehensive kind of solutions, it involves low-cost technologies, traditional knowledge, as well as the scientific advances. And some of them, they may be very cheap, others may be very costly. So integration of these for achieving the impact at the farmer level, it is really important that the policies, particularly the financial institutions, they should support this kind of, interventions. And moreover, the policies, they should, particularly now there is a greater awareness about the impacts of the climate change and all those kind of factors, not only to the farmers, but there is a realization at the higher levels also. So here, my suggestion is this kind of tools and the solutions it provides, they should comprise an integral component of the agricultural policies, particularly the financing strategies.
Thank you. That's a great point in terms of risk mitigation, not only for the farmers, but also for the financing organizations, and how it's super important for any atlas like this and policies to be locally relevant. Krishna, what has been your experience as far as Nepal is concerned with ACASA?
Atlas, yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Simit Bisa, for doing this great job for preparing the commodity-specific this map. Really, it is innovative and first of its kind in the region. So, linking with the challenger or my experience in Nepal, like the topography is very heterogeneous in Nepal and land holding size is very small. It's linking with the resolution of this ACASA map is 5 km grid, so it may not reflect or map the micro level risks, so that may have the limited application in Nepal. So its use is, it has a great use, but the important challenge is like how can we translate its benefit to the other stakeholders like extension worker and development partner. First, they should know, and after knowing how quickly they adopt it, and then they need to teach to the other stakeholders like farmers, which are our ultimate users. So these kind of challenges are existing. But what we realize is that although it has limited application in the present context for the smallholder, but it has a great implication for making the policy at the local, provincial, and national level. The one important thing is that it can be a useful tool for the investment and policy decision making in the future. But we should have to think what could be the best way we can make its best use for the farmers.
Thank you so much. Which actually brings me to the next question. Maybe Pratapji, I'll ask you. Science can be best, I mean, we've spoken about how science can inform policy decision making, but also can help allied industries as well. But how do you see ACASA really changing the lives of the farmers? If I was to ask you 5 years down the line, what would be the application, and how do you see this application really in the field and not necessarily at a technical level?
To turn science into action, in other words, I'd say to make the livelihood of farmers resilient to the kind of climatic shocks that we are experiencing today. We require a multi-pronged approach. It is not that only we provide something. Now, I just give you an example. For example, the insurance. Okay, for some reasons, the ACASA might advocate, go for crop insurance. But the farmers will adopt crop insurance if they find it profitable compared to the other kind of, interventions or mitigation strategies. Otherwise, they are not going to do. But another point is that, particularly in this kind of situations, insurance, the farmers have to pay premium in advance at the time before the growing season, when the farmers have competing demands on their limited resources. So how to alleviate that kind of, create awareness. In India, of course, some time back that provision of short-term credit, it was linked with insurance. Insurance was linked to that. But now it has been made voluntary for the farmers. Now, if our efforts keep on like this, providing, decision-making tools and the kind of solution that farmers, I feel that in the coming years, I cannot say that in 5 years, but maybe another 10 years down the line, that we will have a climate resilient agricultural system, and this is important because of the declining size of land holdings. So then another point here, of course, what I find in Akasa is that it is not only the crops, it is the livestock. And livestock is, it is a buffer against, this kind of climatic shocks. So this is important. Another is that to turn science into action, there are a couple of things. First is what science should do. The science should keep on evolving, the kind of innovations, say maybe climate resilient varieties.
Right.
So all those kind of, or say for example, say integration of micro irrigation and the solar farming.
Right.
So these are important kind of things. The science should keep on evolving this kind of the technologies, but at the same times, for example, developers, for example, Akasa we have developed, they should also keep on upgrading their, outputs so that we can have a continuous stream of outcomes with this kind of things. Now, another important point is that we should have, kind of, this is one tool. Of course, I am satisfied, Dr. Agrawal is satisfied. But what about the policymakers? So do we have an effective science policy interface? That's mostly lacking in developing countries. The scientists are doing in isolation, the policymakers are doing in isolation. Unless there is an effective interface between different categories of the stakeholders, say, involving right from the farmers to developers of this kind of tools and all these of things. Then, of course, another important component which links, this kind of tools, that is the extension system. That should, be effective enough to disseminate this kind of outputs to the farmers in an effective way. Particularly what I see that this kind of tool it can address, because the challenges that agriculture is facing, they are interconnected. And any kind of intervention, if you target one intervention to solve one problem, either it will exacerbate the another problem or it give rise to new problems. So we should be mindful about these kind of the changes, integrated, comprehensive and adaptive policies and institutional frameworks are required for that.
Thank you. Great points. Hassan, do you have perspectives from Bangladesh? And then I know, Pramodji, you want to come in.
Yeah, I think another word can be added, as my colleague said, is sustainable, data and science-backed system. But in this regard, I can mention one word is that as the data is the heart of this system, this Akasa portal, so there is possibility to be hero in case of data, and at the same time, data can be the villain as well. If data is not properly included in the system, then it can misguide us. So it can be boomerang to us. So we should have to be very careful, and obviously I believe we are working very professionally to handle the data, use the data, and process the data to include in this system. So again, I think for this kind of solutions, the improvements should be gradual. In one day, it will not solve all the problems. Gradually, the data and other gaps will be improved in this system, and once upon a time, it will be a very robust one. So I hope in Akasa, we are in right track, and hopefully it will be beneficial for both for farmer level and policy planners as well. Thank you.
Pramod Ji.
I would just like to echo what was already said, but let me say our vision is that in 10 years, if not earlier, we should have a resilient agriculture in whole of South Asia and practically in all of global South. And there are several technologies already available, and I think the point was well made. It's not that technologies are lacking. Technology targeting is something that is lacking. I think that's very critical because randomly we keep trying technologies everywhere. That's not very helpful. To increase the efficiency and effectiveness of our research, we really need to target what is going to work where. I think to that extent, ACASA is a step forward, is trying to bring out that type of granularity, that what technology will work in what location and in what time frame. Because remember, we are also talking of climatic change. What is good today may not really be good tomorrow, right? So adaptation versus maladaptation, we don't want to get into that trap that we invest into something and tomorrow we regret that no, what we made was a wrong decision, it has become maladaptation. So what we really want is a resilient tomorrow, resilient farming community, resilient region, resilient nations, especially in context of agriculture, but we all have to put our heads together. It's not ACASA is just one of the two,
Right.
not the only two. Climate finance is a big ask. You know, everybody keeps talking about it, but I think we really need to have some clear direction. How do we really get to that climate finance?
No, thanks a lot. And I'm coming to my last question, and I think we're doing pretty well in terms of the time as well. So my last question is really about action that we may commit, each one of us may commit to make sure that science is really improving lives of farmers. What's the single action that each one of you would like to take? Because you're all decision makers in your own right. So what's that single action that you would want to take so that science really translates to improving lives of farmers? Maybe Krishna, I can start from you.
So before that, I want to share, we should have to work in the nexus, not in the isolation. I want to add like all the stakeholders. First, we need to link this information with the technology and link with the finance, market, and the insurance, so that if we bundle all of those factors, then we can get a result-oriented output. So for this, scientists may map the risks and provide the solution, and policymaker can use those solutions for making the strategy. Development partner can provide the training and some sort of activities to the farmers, and the financial institution or private sector can link those finance to the climate smart technologies, and farmers can be aware on time and act collectively. So if we fit all of those stakeholders in the nexus approach, then we can get a solution. So we should have to link science in, not in the action, science into policy, then in the action. We should have to link science, policy, and then action. So on behalf of NARC and myself, I'm committed. So let's work together to get a solution. Thank you.
Thanks. Pratapji.
Say, of course, I have been arguing always for that the policies should create a level playing field for adoption of this kind of technologies. Because our existing framework, maybe it is true for all the countries in the South Asia, it was aimed to for something to enhancing food security and all that. We have achieved that. But these incentives in terms of subsidies, etc., it has become now unsupportive of the sustainable development. Now, if you keep on providing this kind of subsidies, say for example, you keep on providing free electricity or heavily subsidized electricity, our efforts, say for example, to conserve water through using this kind of tools, they will go waste. Because they are getting free, they don't value all those kind of those things. So my take is that through the policies, I will always try to strive for repurposing agricultural subsidies for the sustainable solutions.
I can mention the scenario of what is happening in Bangladesh regarding ACASA. You know, BRAC is an international NGO in Bangladesh. So BRAC has adaptation clinic in village level. So they are very happy to introduce with this system, and they want to introduce this ACASA portal advisory in their place. I think the next action should be awareness development. Massive awareness should be developed in our local stakeholders. At the same time, maybe a lot of training would be better for them. So by this way, I think the system can be, go way forward. Thank you.
Aarti?
In my view, the next steps should be like, so we have the younger generation of farmers who are really not encouraged nowadays to take up farming. So with such data-driven tools and the farmer-centric approaches that Akasa tools are providing, so we have more of the younger generation farming community coming into the this farming role and taking up, they have the informed choices, what crops to take, what management practices follow, and then they become certain of their crop yields. So that certainty, that resilience in our farmers is there, so that they are able to make their own informed decisions and choices of like what would be good for them, what would make them more resilient. So I think the next steps, these tools would not only help the policymakers, but our stakeholders here, the farmers and the young farming community.
Pramod?
Any transformative change requires transformative thinking. In terms of next steps, we really have to step up our game. We have to simplify complex science into language that our investors, our farmers can understand. I think that's the next step that we have to really take. In fact, we have already initiated some steps. We are engaging more and more with next users, end users, to understand what exactly they need and how the same in Atlas and other tools that we have can be made much more productive and useful to many of them by simplifying our message. That's the next step for us.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you so much to our panelists. I have the hard job of summing up, but I'm not going to, try and say whatever our panelists have said, but few words that I've actually picked up. One is about sustainable solutions. Sustainability in this, I would say, a world that is braving climate impact, sustainable solutions are a must. Technology is never a silver bullet. However, technology can provide a level playing field in a way that it is bidirectional. It is getting insights from the field so that it stems from reality of farmers and the challenges that the farmers are facing, but also informing policies and decision making based on those realities. Younger farmers who are perhaps moving out of fields want more assurances, and they want more predictability in an unpredictable world. And that's where I think tools like Akasa can be really helpful, but also it provides a certain assurance to the allied industry so that they can serve the farmers in a meaningful way. So thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you so much for our panelists for bringing insights when it comes to database decision making, but more importantly, paving way, I would say, for healthy as well as strong nation, food security, as well as thriving community of farmers. Thank you so much.